it happens within my life, and it happens within my life that I meet people who don't appear at first as though they're suffering from any kind of economic or religious oppression. And make no mistake that economic oppression and religious oppression are the same thing, right? We are baffled with bullshit. We say, oh, that is a cult, and oh, that is religion. Most people, by the time they're probably 15 years old, think they know the difference between a cult and a religion. You know what the difference is? Zero. No difference. There's no difference between a cult and religion. Every religion behaves like a cult, and every cult behaves like a religion. They are the same thing. They are the same thing, okay? Some religions or cults, which are very small and are televised as being noticeably perverted or dangerous to other human beings, are what most people consider cults or dangerous cults in this religion. But it's interesting that some people really think that because something's a cult, they're not a religion, and that religion itself is good. We call good cults religions. So if your cult is big enough and wonderful enough, you can say it's a religion, which means it doesn't suffer any of the degenerate problems that a cult would face. In fact, it's not even nearly true. And it happens within my life that I meet people who behave as though they're in a cult. And they're not in a cult, right? They're behaving the way they have because they had a certain kind of mother. And now you have to understand that in order to understand this, in order to hear what I'm saying, you have to understand that we're not trying to lynch women or mothers when we say this. But that doesn't change the fact that they have a certain kind of mother. Because we just don't have maybe a generous way or accurate way of talking about these mothers, we say that these people had a certain kind of mother. Or they had a mother at all, which can be a very dangerous thing to have in this world, is a mother. A mother can be a very dangerous person. Because what people learn, and the reason that they often can't distinguish between cults and religions, is that a mother can do no wrong. Just like a religion can never be a cult, right? A mother can do no wrong. There's nothing about, mothers can be abusive, but there's nothing about being a mother in itself that is dangerous. Which, if you take feminism in itself, in all of its studies, is a completely contradictory statement. Because the whole point of feminism is to show us that deep-seated cultural and economic bias can negatively affect human behavior and human outcomes, and how neither male nor female, and that your genitalia whatsoever, is not necessarily any kind of protection. In fact, different forms of genitalia in different contexts can advance more superior coping systems, but essentially no one's protected. You can protect yourself enough to be part of a cult to distribute as though undetected violence onto people whose voices you never need to hear. And that's called structural bias, right? Or structural violence. This makes no distinction in itself whether or not the people doing this are male or female, right? It is useful, or has been useful, no doubt, to say that structural violence is only male-oriented. That somehow everything associated with having nuts and bolts, genitalia, and testicles between my legs singles me out and all people of like gender or genitalia for particularly negative consideration as to the distribution of structural violence, exonerating women before, during, and after of any past, present, or future appearance of violence or sexually predatory behavior toward any other creature and even another woman. Right? And put in that way, you can kind of see how perverse that could be, but how consoling it could be, how that could seem to explain everything. What you don't understand, and that's fine, take nothing away from that and its explanatory value, but you're not going to get to a peaceful world that way. Because what you're saying is that of all the things that can happen to a man, he cannot be raped by a woman. He cannot be assaulted by a woman. He, in fact, can't even be murdered by a woman. Because anything a woman wants to do to your body or your reputation is a defense against all men. And it's been so bad to them for so long that you always have to give women special consideration no matter what, because they can't be moral agents of any kind, especially if under normal conditions, if their behavior might impute their character or their intent or their danger perhaps to other human beings. And so by the lights of feminism, you can't protect children from their mother. You just said that women can do anything. And I agree. I agree women can do anything. I agree that women have a biological license to kill and maim their own flesh and blood. They do. I know they do. I know for a fact that they do. I know that. I know that under lots of conditions, men hurt women and get away with it, as though they have a license to rape and hurt someone, anyone, be they, in this case, female, over whom they have any kind of advantage. My mom's brothers raped her when she was 5 years old, raped her sister who was 3, they raped sisters, 7, 8, 9. They were practicing for medical school. Okay? Disgusting. I have suffered from that. My whole family has suffered from that. Right? Suffered. I've had my shoulder dislocated 20 times because of that. Right? So don't understand that I know how much that can hurt. I wasn't there. I'm not my mom. But I'm the only person in her life that ever took the time, 25 years, to investigate and find out what was wrong. I didn't know. So if I'm such a misogynist, why would I do that? And by the way, the dislocated shoulders came from the rape by women. And some men were involved sometimes. So how come men rape women if women have what I call a biological license to kill? We get into cult psychology and religion, in this case Christianity. Christianity kills Jesus. It's using the female biological license to scapegoat a man. And it's being employed as an economic device to insinuate an infinite amount of debt into everyone who should be thankful for this public torture, and is thus transferring that license to the power of the religion, using it upon the poor in a way that both men and women suffer from. Okay? It then becomes a matter of purely academic consideration as to who's doing the worst amount of murder to whom. Men being banged up as boys as Jesus, or women who are going to end up getting banged by those men any number of times, right? Without their consent. It's complicated, right? My mom's family were Mennonites who for generations had very close families. In fact, there was probably a good deal of incest. I can't prove that, but given the history, the oral history that I'm acquainted with, they were a very tight-knit bunch for many generations. Okay? So I think there's been a few brothers and sisters or cousins and stuff having children. To this day, you'll see a lot of couples, like among the white population of any background, who look a lot like brothers and sisters. I know for a fact that there are people in the area having children who are brothers and sisters. I know this for a fact. Okay. Think about that. And these people will say, oh yeah, it's fun. So I'm not sure how that figures into my mom being raped, but their people, Mennonites, had been pushed out of many lands. That's not an excuse for being raped. But let's just say a depression, a Dust Bowl depression in Canada, poverty, but also the ability to survive, work off the land. What I'm really saying is not that there's a good reason my mother was raped. What I'm saying is that there's reason to suspect that there are certain kinds of conditions in the environment that make rape or violence inevitable. Right? Still, the people involved are responsible. But if we're trying to find something useful, beyond trying to, heal the victim and give them whatever we think they deserve, going on, given that there's so much rape of men and boys and girls and women in the world, something useful that we can take away from that, right? And you say, well, how can you change an economic system? Because poverty is manufactured part. It's an economic instrument, right? Obviously. That's hidden by religion and by the cult psychology of global economics. Poverty is a financial instrument. A dollar is a financial instrument based on poverty. All poverty comes from the beliefs and the nature of a dollar bill. It doesn't come from nature. It doesn't come because people are just unlucky. Right? You have to understand how groups behave, statistics, probability. If you have 500 million people and something called a dollar bill, right? 499 million of those people are going to be poor. But they make the economic system seem so complicated that you think, oh, the poor are always with us. They're manufactured. Homelessness is manufactured. You can either make a home for people or you can make homeless people. What do you want to do as a society? Remember, that's society as a group. You don't want anyone to be homeless. I don't want anyone to be homeless. I don't want anyone to be raped. You don't want anyone to be raped. Presumably, anyone watching this video in the next 1,000 years doesn't want anyone to be raped, doesn't want anyone to be homeless. Oh, I don't want to be homeless. Oh, give everyone a home. Then you'll get these fucking bastards, these mongrel, retarded gorillas who say, I'm not going to give away free money to people. They're poor because they don't work hard enough. They stay at home and do shit. They're just fucked. I work hard every day. You think it's easy doing what I do? And that's the retarded gorilla talking, right? Because those kinds of people don't know anything about economics. They don't know anything. They don't know what they don't know. And what they don't know includes the fact that what they do know is shit. It's not what you doesn't know that gets you. It's what these retarded gorillas know for sure that just ain't so. You can go to any coffee shop in Canada and find people who know for sure that if you vote in a certain kind of prime minister, everything's going to change. Or if you vote out the president, everything's going to change. Or I remember listening to educated men, right? Know-it-alls sitting at a table going, Hillary Clinton's going to be indicted on Monday. And I got up and I left and I never came back. Oh, surprise, surprise, Hillary Clinton wasn't indicted. What the fuck are these people listening to, right? What do they really know about the world except how to collect money? Oh, get some money. Oh, I'll sell this and get some money. I'll sell my fingers and get some money. I'll sell my fucking labor and get some money. Oh yeah, I can give my labor away for money, right? A prostitute gives her vagina away for money. And that's her labor. You stick your dick in her pussy and then you give her money, right? Dick, pussy, she humps you. Oh God, baby. Oh God, you're fucking, oh God, your beautiful, ugly dick is just making me wild. It has to be $500, baby. And she goes, oh, I got $500. And all I had to do was let some strange man stick his dick in my vagina. And you can get used to that. It's a job. And you can get used to going to work and sharing your time and taking yourself away from your children and putting bricks on a wall or building a still building or collecting chits or answering phones or researching some cure for cancer that's never going to appear. And then you can get money for that too. And you think, that's okay. That's better than being a prostitute, right? Wrong. It's no different. It's no different. And do you know who told you that? Do Do you know who told you that? Sigmund Freud told you that. The Frankfurt School told you that. The people who created the entire realm that you call psychiatry and psychology and religion and theater and control it tell you that every fucking day of your life. Every fucking homeless person is telling you that. Every fucking TV screen. The genetic profile of every 3 seconds of every fucking song, movie, and television show you have ever watched or will ever watch is telling you that, but you aren't using the fucking holes in your head. Because you're in a cult. Because you've already had your sex and your fucking breath given the fuck away to an entirely morbid system that says even the sun is fucking dying. You create memories for your memorial ceremony. Because that's more royal. The only way to be more royal is to be dying all the time. Your very language is killing you. You're so fucking stupid and you don't even realize it. They treat you like stupid animals. They can get on TV, some liberal actor, and you think, you ever wondered why actors appear on television? Because no matter how vitriolic they are about basic human values, they live in a completely different world. That'd be like me going on a TV show for farm cows and talking about how I demand rights so that not every calf has to be killed for food.
I thought there was somebody else in here.
No, I'm talking to myself. I was talking about how ludicrous it would be. Like actors that appear on television are like if I, as a meat eater, appeared on cow television and demanded that cows had more rights. You know? I'm tired of the wanton destruction of my fellow bovine brothers and sisters. And going away to have dinner with a big smorgasbord of cow patties.
Maybe you should say burger patties instead of cow patties.
I know.
Cow patties is something very different.
That's why I said it.
Wow.
Because I think actually meat shouldn't die. Hey Patty, I wonder if girls named Patty are ever called Cow Patty.
They don't have chopped whatever you ask for fight bar, but they have brownies.
Well, that's fine. I think that's kind of what I meant. Buddy's been peeing all over the place.
Yeah.
He's a urinating machine. A
If you
mean
notice-
green
If you ever notice, he doesn't pee very much.
elimination machine. Oh, he peed over there before he went out. He went out, took a poo, and then he's peed over here. He is going. He is going. In fact, I would put him back outside, Harvey. He's good out there. Oh, yeah. Ja ja binks. Ja ja binks. Ja ja boogie boogie boom. Oh, sorry. There's still some poo out here.
Oh, is there?
I'll get it before I go.
Oh, I'm just looking. Where is it exactly?
It's right near the plant.
Okay.
It's about 1.5 feet away from the plant.
You mean the tree?
Oh, the tree. Isn't that a plant?
Well, specifically it's a tree.
But it's not a very big tree. It's a
Well,
1.5 feet tall. Things that are in pots are plants. Things that are in...
Very good boy. Down that nose over there is running.
Do you ever get a little nervous when you pass people on the sidewalk and they're blowing their nose? I still can't do that. I'm thinking, I don't have to be...
Yeah, you're entitled. If somebody's coughing, you want to keep away from them too.
I don't have to be near people every day, and so when I come home and there's people around, I don't want to be near them.
People that cough.
Yeah. That's another thing about taking the bus.
No respect.
They got no respect for me. I don't know, but
What if I should go for my walk now?
I am free.
I'm
I
gonna
got
go for
no
my walk now.
respect
Are
for
you
me.
coming be home for a little
I'm
bit?
gonna be gone in about 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes.
I'll wait till later.
You can go on a walk.
Well, I might.
I'll bring Buddy in before I go. You should do it while you're in the mood.
Well, I'm in the middle. Okay, and I got my coffee.
Yeah, go and do it. You're not gonna be more than 20 minutes anyway.
Well, I like to be a good half hour. I go for 45 minutes, but I can make it a little shorter today. I won't. A walk is a walk, right?
Yep.
It's good. It's a good discipline for me because my day goes much better. The other day,
Yeah.
when I was in a bad mood, it was because I did nothing that day.
Yeah.
Yesterday I had a really good walk. I didn't do my yoga. I did my yoga.
I do my Yoda. I try to pretend I'm really small and green.
Did you say yoga?
Yoda. My Yoda. My Yoda. I think I'm green and I've got some fuzz too. And Yoda's just a boy learning to go through.
Okay, my little muffin. Oh, see you. Don't forget he's outside.
Yep, I'll bring them.
I don't know if you remember. I set the timer.
If I give you my promise, will you believe me? I will not leave him outside.
I'm gonna set
If
the
I have to
timer.
walk back a mile, I will run back and get him. Oh shit! When Yoda's here, he has a very good time. He takes out a lightsaber and he touches mine. Dun, 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 dun. So just beat it. Cause you want a good time, just beat it. Okay. You know what? I haven't showered in several days. I will brush my. I'm actually quite clean. I'm a clean man. A clean living sort. Yes, Landon's a clean living man. He's got very clean impulses. I believe, at least he used to. Now he's disgusting. But that's okay. Because disgusting people are part of the world as well. And they will always be with us, my children. Oh, man. I hear so many strange things in my life. I was in downtown Vancouver. Now, I'm a man who gets sexually assaulted all the time, right? I just wrote an essay about women who sexually assault people, okay? And that women do this a lot, and then feminism hasn't yet grown up to the point that it can really deal with this, but it does tell us that there are boundaries around talking about these things, especially a man talking about these things, because you don't want to erode all the gains that have been made in protecting women from perhaps men like me who talk shit about women and don't have any proof or evidence. Well, I don't know, like, do you want me to give you my pap smear from 1999? I mean, it's like I have been raped, okay? I've had my penis bloodied by a dry vagina attempting to fuck me, all right? Now, what evidence do you want me to give you? Do you want me to take pictures of it so I can put it on the internet? Hey, look, my penis is bleeding. And this is the bitch who did it to me. When it comes to women, what I like about being raped by women, what I like about being sexually assaulted by women, is that it is a tremendously complex thing to talk about. I imagine it's also complex to talk about when men do it, but I think hopefully women victims of rape too will appreciate that. From my perspective, if this applies to them, from my perspective, talking about being raped by women is very fucking difficult. Just understanding that you have been raped, let alone thinking that anyone. So when you're making words, when you have sounds, and they're going out into the space around you, and people have asked me, like, who are you talking to? You write all these books. Who are you writing to? Well, a human being needs to be able to talk, even if nobody's there. You ever talk when nobody's there? You ever written a journal even though no one's there to read it? But you still write, you still talk, you still think as though someone could hear you, right? Maybe you think about what to say to someone. You don't think about, I'm going to talk to my boyfriend, you fucking rapist, ugly fucking motherfucker. You say, hey, can I borrow your car this weekend and go out with the girls? You're thinking about, you're controlling your speech, you're manipulating your speech to get what you want, right? That's what humans do. I'm controlling sound as it comes to my throat and making things, and then you can decide
we get to decide what does he mean by that? Is he sincere? What you'll notice is that when people believe all kinds of crazy shit, they can sound sincere. And so your sincerity bullshit checker goes, they're sincere. Check. But that doesn't mean I'm telling the truth. I could sincerely tell you that I'm going to hop on a flying asteroid next week, and my god Yoba is going to beam me up and make little spirit babies with me for eternity. There are people who believe things like that, and they can sincerely tell you that. If you say to them, what proof is there? They're like, what isn't proof of it? You know of asteroids, don't you? My god Yoba lives in the Oort cloud. He's coming back to get his spirit baby concubine, which I am. Guess what part of my body he's going to have to penetrate to get that consummation devoutly to be wished? People, so you've got all these factors in the human voice to figure out, do I take this guy seriously? What does he mean? Where is he going? And then what I provide is that as I'm talking, the space or the hypothetical space or the hypothetical people or the hypothetical pressures. If I sat here talking about I want to be a serial killer, I would feel a lot of pressure. I would kind of be thinking about, gee, what if law enforcement is listening? Like, hey, law enforcement, I want to be a serial killer. This is how I want to do it. And I'd be thinking about that. Like, you wouldn't make a video talking about being a serial killer, because as your words go out into that space, you would imagine that that space is exerting a moral pressure back at you. Right? I don't go out the door going, hey, I want to rape somebody. I'm going to rape the first woman I see. Yay! Right? So you have to control your speech. You can't say whatever you want, right? That means that whether you're talking to yourself or you're talking to the living room by yourself or you're talking on YouTube by yourself, your voice is controlled. Why is that a good thing? Well, because nothing ever good comes without any boundaries. You wouldn't breathe without the pressure of the atmosphere on you. You wouldn't have a skeletal system. You wouldn't have birds, wouldn't have wings if there wasn't air pressure. Simple things, right? Air to breathe, air pressure. So having pressure, having boundaries, I make words, and I can tell you it's tremendously difficult to make words about being raped when you don't believe anyone will believe you. And I can imagine, okay, because I'm not a woman, but I'm not a stupid, I can imagine that a lot of women in human history who have been sexually assaulted, raped, or menaced in any way have felt, maybe have felt similarly. Maybe felt that there's no one they can tell, and that if they did, nobody would believe them. And maybe it was almost a consolation, and I'm using those words really stretching them here. Maybe, because we're looking at victim psychology, maybe it was a bit of a consolation that they were adequately impressed with how precipitous any notion of speaking up about what may or may not have happened to them, because when you can't form words, you may not even be sure anything happened at all, because the sounds that you make inside your mind, and particularly if you write them down or say them out loud or say them to your best friend, they become more real, don't they? So there's you've been raped, and then there's saying you've been raped or thinking you've been raped. You might have a date, get drunk, and a guy gets on top of you, and you think, was I raped? And you go on with your life. And then one day a nice feminist comes and gives you a questionnaire. Have you ever felt ashamed after someone had sex with you and they bought you alcohol that night? And you're like, yes. And you're like, fuck, I've been raped. And that's gotta feel like shit. But you didn't feel like shit before you said those words, before you read those words. It's that doggy here. Hey, doggy. I like to see my doggy. Okay, there you go. So you might not have ever thought that you had a dysfunctional family, or that you had experienced economic prejudice or disparity. You had never maybe connected the fact that you're the income of one or both parents, especially if they're divorced, that have had any inconsistencies to it. It might have affected your personality development. It might have affected how you see conflict. how you process stress, how you see the world around you, let alone if somebody in your family touched you in an inappropriate way, right? But none of those things might have occurred to you until you heard them, till you read them, till you wrote them down, or till you said them. Because words make things real. And you might think, or you might not think too much because you have other things to think about, how come it wasn't real until I read it? And fuck me, how many people are getting away with stuff because we're not inclined to say anything about it. And that tells you that the pressures in the space or in the imaginary space that our voice is symbiotic with, whatever that's, a cultural space, economic space, your personal space, public space, religious space, God space, the government space, public parkland, or anything, or just the biological realities of the chemical soup of brief human existence and agony and then eventual release and death. That means that those pressures can be such that not being able or not feeling inclined to breathe, right? They say, the spirit is not free unless it can breathe. If laws are too tight, it's like your spirit cannot breathe. And the idea of being able to breathe is very much closely related to be able to speak, right? You can be in an environment where something could be done to you, and the pressures of that crucible, cultural, economic, developmental, sexual, you name it, so it's already inhibited you from being able to talk about things, which advantages people who want to do things to you that you're not even going to complain about because nobody talks about it. And that's that level of what feminists call structural violence, right? So if I talk about women having an advantage over men in the realm of rape and sexual assault, that's a very complicated issue, isn't it? Because automatically, biologically, I hope, we're all more sympathetic to women than we are to men. I mean, yeah, we all love men, we love women, people have rights, but essentially human beings, men and women, we tend to, at a very deep level, preference females. Females, in turn, have an enormously ferocious repertoire, including a biological license to kill their own flesh and blood, and to kill the father of their children, and to slander, and to sacrifice them. That is used by the economic and religious dominions of the world. None of this means that women are bad, essentially, or that you should hurt a woman, but it doesn't mean that men are never raped by women. And it means that anyone who's raped, men or women, this hopefully adds to the complexity of the problem, but also adds to the range of words and realities you can flesh out for yourself for your own sense of personal protection. And hopefully that's not, oh God, this guy's full of shit. The idea that men can be raped by women is just the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard. Because then you're just looking like a retarded gorilla.